of motor carrier officer Kerstetter, who lost his life on September 15th. Thank you. You may be seated. Kristen, has roll call been taken?
Yes.
And Chief Sutter, do you want to start with introductions?
Yep, Scott Sutter, Chief of Police.
Kristen Kenyak, City Clerk.
Don Grice, DPW Director.
Elizabeth Armstrong, City Councilor.
Brad Dick, City Councilor.
Anna Simon, City Councilor.
Pam Howe, Mayor Pro Tem.
Danielle Kusan, Mayor.
Mike Yolner, City Attorney.
Ellen Glass, City Manager. Heather McDermott, City Councilor.
Ray Colbert, City Councilor.
Tonight we do have a special presentation, APM Mosquito Control Season Report, presented by BenSeago.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Ben. I'm the General Manager with APM Mosquito Control. Here to hash through another season that we had and answer any questions public may have or City Council members may have. Really a mild winter of 2023, not a whole lot of snowfall. April was hot pretty quickly, which led to spring mosquitoes kind of coming early. The season in general seems to be starting a little bit earlier and kind of trying to go a little bit later every year. July was hot and wet. We had Hurricane Beryl, which hit Texas right there the first week of July, turned into a tropical storm system, and really made its way over Michigan. It kind of parked over mid-Michigan here for a day and a half to 2 days. Rain gauges in the city here compared to Fenton Township, Fenton City, we saw anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain. You'll probably hear me say this a lot over the next few years. If you get 3 inches of rain in summer and it's hot, you're going to have mosquitoes. So we had a pretty solid hatch of summer floodwater mosquitoes that took off. Most of July was pretty bad. Light trap counts were very heightened. When we get a rain event like that, we basically have about 7 days from when the rain hits and those mosquitoes are going to go from egg to adult. So when it's hot like that and wet, it really is that fast, so we treat as much water as we can. And then once the adults come, we basically bump up our rates and spray a little bit heavier in the city. So we're at 1.5 ounces to the acre. With Permex is the main product that we're using. So if we see heightened trap counts or call volume, I automatically will have the guys bump up the rates. Most of July and into August was increased rates for spraying. August and September has been pretty quiet, really. September has been pleasant, it's been hot, but it has been so dry. And it really is just that straightforward. If we get a hot, wet September, like some of you probably remember last September, they'll be there. But once it dries out, they kind of go away. So we are winding routine operations down for the season. I haven't had any resident calls since the 30th of August. So we see trap counts on the decline. We're not getting calls to the office. Typically, technicians are available until the 1st of October. By the numbers, we had 51 resident calls to the office. 45 standing water sites were treated with 243 pounds of Vectovac G. The catch basins were treated. Almost 570 of those were treated first week of May with natural art briquettes. 36 residential properties treated by backpack with Demand CS. We started truck spraying the 23rd of May. Totals for the season were 245 miles sprayed throughout city streets this season. And like I said, most of July was pretty nasty. Trap counts, we had 191 total females collected on the 26th of July. So just to give you an idea, 20 is our threshold. So 3 off-road properties, 13 shut-off properties. Any ULV complaints, any spraying complaints, really just try to forward them over to the office. It can be as simple as checking a GPS file. All the trucks have tablets in them now, and I can look at any spray emission throughout any of the year on the GPS software on the computer. So if someone's been missed, we're glad to fix that. Shut-offs are a priority. Shut-offs are, and that's basically a Department of Ag regulation. Everybody has the right to opt out of treatment. And that is regulation 637 right from Department of Ag. So if you're close by a shut-off, we can always backpack that property and kind of work around it, but The shut-offs do take priority as far as that they have the right to not want to be sprayed, so. But overall, all things considered, we only had a few complaints, and I'd rather hear them so we can fix them, because if we don't know about it, we can't fix them, so. Financials, we were under budget by $3,264 this season, and overall, just wanted to say thanks for the continued support, and any questions up here or residents.
Mr. Thank you, Ben. Any questions from the residents? I know, Ms. Larner, you've had some issues you've raised.
Monica, yeah.
Yeah, so we spoke on the phone.
Yep.
So I guess my concern is, you know, it started out that the shut off was 300 foot.
Yep.
And then when I talked to you, then it's 500 foot. So that just completely, you know, closes me off. And the one that you mentioned on Bridge Street, so that's a new property owner. So is that shut off from the old property owner or the new property owner? And if you're spraying, why are you not backpacking the people that are affected by those shut-offs?
Yeah, so you've got two shut-offs pretty close to you. Like I said, they're gonna take priority. Backpacking, all you've gotta do is request and call, and that is a 30-day product that we use to treat houses, so if you wanted to call in June, you wanted to call in July, and call in August, you'd pretty well be covered for most of the summer, so.
Okay, and then the pond behind me was never, so I'm like no service on the front, and then I
Yeah.
have the pond in the back.
I'm pretty positive I sent Sheldon out to treat that pond, because I remember talking to you, I remember sending him out there with that backpack, so,
Okay, so it got treated once.
yeah.
But in September.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy fix, all we gotta do is set up, we can put you in the database to treat that standing water, and moving forward, all you gotta do is call. But on the backside, if one of those shut-off properties calls and complains, Department of Ag is gonna launch an investigation on that complaint.
Well, I'm
If
not.
I open up our software and we're anywhere, so the 500 feet thing, 500 feet is where the technicians in the truck will get notified that they're within a zone. 300 is the regulation. So the guys are driving a truck, they're gonna get notified at 500 feet. And then if we're within 300, we're in breach of that regulation. So I don't even wanna get close to that, so that's where I'm
And
at.
that's what I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying, you know, knowing that I have no recourse, you know, why am I not treated on a regular basis like everybody else?
Yeah, you can easily get treated. We did it with backpacks, so we can set stuff up if you wanna be a routine backpack every 3 weeks or something. That's what we can, there's workarounds. It's just to get a truck in your property too close to the shut-offs, so truck spraying's kinda out of the picture, but,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Seeing none. Pam, any questions or comments?
No, but I know that I can tell that you were, sorry, I can tell that you were out there spraying because we didn't notice many mosquito issues this year, thankfully.
They were there in July.
Right.
Really. It takes a few weeks to knock them down when we get rains like that, but, and always if you guys are seeing stuff out there and you want public areas sprayed or you're hearing stuff and you want us to go a little bit later into September, just give me a heads up. I mean, just an email, or Kristen will email me sometimes. We're happy to do any of the properties you guys want, or, but if we're not hearing stuff and it's pretty mild in the traps, that's kind of when we back things down, so anyways.
Did you locate, I mean, when you have the females in, do you sample for other pathogens that those mosquitoes are carrying? Or-
Yeah, the New Jersey light traps are picked up twice a week. Those are strictly population, kind of monitoring. There is, I believe, 10, I don't know if it's 10 or 8, adult mosquito samples that are collected in Linden with dry ice traps. And they are PCR tested at the office in Flint for West Nile, Triple E, Eastern Equine Encephalitis, and then St. Louis encephalitis. We had no arbovirus activity in the city of Linden. You guys would be notified right away if something were to happen, but no, Genesee County has a couple cases in Burton, APM accounts, we had 2 in Augrey Township, 1 in Alabaster Township, which is up in Osco County, Aranet County, and then we had 1 in Huron County, in Caseville Township, but none in the Genesee County sample pools that were tested. We've screened roughly 300 adult mosquito pools for rotavirus activity, but that's limited for me. Joe can tell you all about every species, and he really gets into that. But yeah, if you guys were to have a positive West Nile or any rotavirus activity, you would be notified. Department of Health and Human Services gets notified. We send ground crews out there, and it's not really cause for alarm. It's just kind of good to know for protection. So,
Thank you.
all right, guys. Thank you.
You're not off the hook yet. I'm gonna go, Brenda, any questions?
No, thank you for everything.
Brad?
No.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Ray?
No, good report, thank you.
Thank you.
Heather?
No, thank you.
Okay. Now you're good. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Next item on our agenda is public comment. Any person wishing to address city council during a meeting will get 3 minutes under public comment. When public comment is approached on the agenda, individuals wishing to speak will be called upon utilizing the filled out comment forms. Remarks should be addressed to the presiding officer. It is not a time for debate, but for questions or comments for council and or staff. Questions will be answered if the information is readily available. If answers are not available during the meeting, council or staff will contact the individual within 48 hours and respond to questions within 10 days or when the information becomes available. So I do have several cards. The first comment card is from Monica Larner.
I'm Monica Larner, 152 West Ralston Road. And first off, on the podium, I don't feel that we're getting listened to. We were talking about the podium being in everybody's way. You're expecting us to have our back to the citizens. You're expecting that the audience can see around the podium to see the front of things. And I know at the last meeting I couldn't see all of the city council. And I just saw the behind of people at podium. So this is just an example of a simple thing that we're not being listened to. So things are out of control on the hotline, social media, and websites. So I'm going to quote from a website. The city has also begun 2 major road projects, West Ralston Road and Lindenwood. Unfortunately, there was a lot of incorrect information shared at the beginning of the projects, which created a mistrust of the city council and the city. Some citizens thought they would be paying $60,000 per parcel on West Ralston. The city was not hiding numbers, but had no numbers to share until the estimates were back. The assessment for West Ralston came in at less than $6,000 per parcel. That's the end of the quote. The part that's bothering me is the $60,000 per parcel. So I'm going to go back to May of 2023, where the published estimates were $1.8 million. The amount to be assessed was $943,000, and it was also published that 30 parcel numbers were going to divide that amount. So we came up with the 30,000 estimate. The parcel list was 2 of my parcels, so therefore it was 60,000. So because I repeatedly spoke out against that, but never ever were my words putting 60,000 with a per parcel estimate. And since I was the only one speaking out against it, I think this is targeting me personally. The incorrect information was published, and therein lies another example of why we have the mistrust. And I don't understand why I'm being targeted on a website that way. And the sentence about West West Ralston Road came in at less than 6,000 per parcel, but there was the omission of the 698,000 for the Shiawassee Shores. And was that to make it look better? It took more than a year for the decision to be made, and during that time, we've only had these numbers to go by. So is it a wonder why there would be questions? In closing, I take personal offense to the website singling me out.
Thank you, Monica. Ramona Dees.
The museum desperately needs a storage area. Have you ever considered using the former VFW hall for their storage? I've been told that the Historical Society raised $30,000 to repair the mill, and that there was a bequest of $100,000 and approximately $80,000 remaining. Now, I know you've been renting out that property, and you probably are depending upon that income in your budget. But there is available money that belongs to the Historical Society that could be used for rental, and I would seriously want you to consider using this city property for that wonderful purpose. I suspect that eventually you're going to do the right thing and allow the museum to move back into the historical building where I think logically it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. P.M.I.
Good evening. P.M.I. I'm president of the Linden Mills Historical Society. You're undoubtedly getting sick of me coming up here in front of you. But I will continue to do so because I'm quite passionate about something, and then I usually don't give up real easy. But I am glad to have this opportunity to speak to you. 60-some years ago, while finding my way in the world, I was attending college, and I enrolled in a 2-year program called Higher Accounting. Not wishing to spend the rest of my career sitting in a cubicle doing monotonous work, I decided to go into education, which was a challenge in itself. I ended up with a Bachelor of Science degree and a double major in accounting and business law, and a minor in coaching. Long story short, one of my business law professors pointed out something which stuck with me all these years, and until this day, I think about this thing constantly. Now I have some people in front of me that are much more advanced in legal issues than I am, because I only had 6 semesters of it. But anyway, I came across a word which has stuck with me all these years, and that word is intent. And I remember the professor telling us that the word intent is the biggest word in law. Now, I could be told wrong because I have experts in front of me, but the golden rule of intent arises out of the fundamental principle that courts must interpret statutes according to the intent of the party or parties that make it. And this is how I interpreted that particular rule of law. And I take it back to the time in 1956 when our mill stopped operating and the machinery was dismantled and sold at auction. To save the mill from the wrecking ball, the mill was purchased by Eugene and Ellen Farner and Bryce and Gladys Evans for $5,000. Both Mr. Farner and Mr. Evans died the following year, and the 2 widows sold the mill quitclaim deed to the village of Linden for $1 and other considerations. Now, it was their intent to see the place being used by the community, and it came to pass that in 1961, the library moved in from the fire hall to the first floor of the mill. The bottom floor was to be a youth center. Plans were drawn up, but they never developed because the village moved their offices into that space and also the police station moved in there. The museum followed in the building, and it was financed and built by the Historical Society and officially opened during the 1976 U.S. Centennial.
I'm sorry, Pete.
It's okay.
That is your 3 minutes. Thank you.
That was the quickest 3 minutes of,
That's why we have the timer.
okay. Thank you.
I have 2 other comment cards, one for Denise Miller, but it appears to be on an agenda item, and Chris Kenyon also on an agenda item. Any other public comments tonight?
I thought the agenda item had a different spot, so I.
It does. I just wanted, some people have filled out cards and listed agenda items, so I just wanted to see. So if there are no further public comments tonight, we will move on to our consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. The work session minutes from September 9th, 2024, application to use public property for the Pancake Breakfast fundraiser for Phase 2 of Laugh Pathway, and Resolution 29-24, Transportation Improvement Plan. Were there any comments from the audience regarding the consent agenda items? Hearing and seeing none from council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Shiawassee River Water Trail Coalition MDNR Grant Fiduciary.
So we left this on the agenda as unfinished business. At the last meeting, you guys had asked us to provide a list of the proposed improvements, and we included in the packet the correspondence from Dave Lozing, who is the chair of the Shiawassee River Trail Coalition. You guys had also asked for us to potentially quantify the improvements that would, and what impact that would have on the city of Linden, and then staffing. And then obviously Mike's here to answer any questions as far as his opinion goes. But I think overall it's really tough for us to quantify exactly what the benefit's gonna be. I mean, the whole entire water trail, I mean, obviously it benefits the entire, we have 2-point-some miles roughly, I can't, of the river flowing through Linden roughly and stuff. So to say that it's just gonna benefit one more so than the other, that's pretty hard for us to I guess, quantify. As far as what it's going to take for staff, to act as the grant fiduciary, I guess it depends on the number of projects, like we communicated before. Our staff is happy to do so. We, if at any point, if we feel that it's gone above and beyond what we're able to, I guess, fulfill, then we can communicate that with the Water Trail Coalition. The Water Trail Coalition has been a great partnership with the city and things like that. So I guess that's really all I have to add to it. I know we've been discussing this for quite some time. Mike obviously has his thoughts on this as well. But I'm sure that we will have a positive outcome if you guys decide to move forward with it. And I was happy to hear any comments. Maybe move this along one way or another.
Thank you, Ellen. Mike, anything else to add?
No, nothing else. I said what I said needed to say last time and in my letter.
Thank you. So I did speak with David Lossing, and the items are listed in our packet, this was from June 5th in the memo to Ellen. And I guess the way I look at it, so in the letter we received from our attorney, Mike Gilder, indicates that the public purpose is defined as has for its objective the promotion of public health, safety, morals, general welfare, security, prosperity, and contentment of the city residents. I look at the proposed projects, which include design, installation, replacement of trail signage, installation of kiosks, improving the amenities, printing and updating paddling maps, water trail maintenance, installation of portages, kayak lockers, maintenance of level gauges, joint trailheads with multi-use paths, promotion of ecotourism along with the water trail, business development, creation of education programs for paddlers, creation of education programs for riverfront and lakefront property, and creation of programs to work with agricultural communities. These things do include, there are mile markers. I believe there were 3 inside the city limits of Linden. There's also a paddling magazine. They have the hi-fi gauges, one's in Linden, and they're also doing a new kayak launch in Benton Township. And I guess the way I look at it is we promote the use of the Shiawassee River, and really, if it weren't for the river, we wouldn't be here as a city. And anyone who then gets onto the river, I think, has a benefit for things that happen along the way, right? If you're using the river, even if the markers on the river are not in the city limits, you're getting that benefit because it makes it a more beneficial experience. So I just wanted to share that based on the comments we had and some of the concerns that people had with us moving forward. Pam, any comments or questions?
No, I mean, even if we did go the route, I know from the DNR that if they submitted bills to us, I read through the packet too, and they're very good about, if they would reimburse us, we just have to do the paperwork.
Brenda?
No additional comments, thanks, I have everything I need.
Fred?
I have no problem with being the fishery. My only concern is, staff's time and being reimbursed for that time. So it's time that they'd be spending doing other things for residents or everything else. I mean, we bill the way, city staff bills out our time. They bill everybody. I mean, they bill the DDA for 10 minutes. They bill, a road. It just seems like it's not necessarily fair that we're doing it for free.
Elizabeth?
No questions.
Ray?
Yeah, my only concern was that these items would impact the city of Linden, and I believe the group that should be the fiduciary is who has the volume of the improvements. So that was my question. I can see where some of these impact all the users, but kiosks, are any of them going to be in Linden? We don't know.
I don't know that.
You don't know.
And unfortunately, David Lossing, who submitted this, is, because he is the president, was unable to be at today's
I can
meeting.
understand that all of these items are critical, and I can understand why an organization would want a city to be, or a township to be a fiduciary, but I just want to make sure that these items are going to impact our users here in Linden. And that was my only concern. And I don't think we know that answer yet. But I support us being the fiduciary if those items are going to impact users here in Linden, and we're going to see some value in our community.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Heather?
Well, I've said along, how does our attorney feel about it? He said he legally thinks it's okay, and how our staff feels about doing it. And Ellen seems to think they're okay with that. I have a little bit of concern about the free time that they're donating basically to this, but I do think the river is huge as far as the city and what it brings to it, and so something that is beneficial to, I guess it's probably a good thing.
So, if we did take on this project and we found out that it was just too much on our staff, could we turn it back to David?
I think it would be difficult to do personally. I think it would be difficult to do.
Yeah.
We ought to make that decision going in. Is it going to be a hardship on the staff?
Okay, I think our manager wanted to respond.
One of the things that we did discuss in the Zoom call with David is, the Shiawassee River Trail Coalition, they do work with Saginaw Bay Wind, and they do have staff. It sounds like for the majority, they're going to be putting together most of the paperwork and stuff. We're just gonna be the conduit, the pass-through. We would obviously, with that being said, want to lay eyes on it and make sure that we're comfortable with what we're submitting and things like that. So there would be some staff time. It's just hard to quantify exactly what that's going to be, so. And it does sound like, but Mike, and I just asked Mike, but it does sound like there is some acknowledgement of administrative fees that we could have in reimbursement.
Yeah, I'm looking at, it's page 1 of 2 of the document, and it indicates that in terms of the accounting procedures, they require time records for individual employees charged to this program. So I infer from that 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 includes some administrative expense.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the audience on this agenda item? Chris?
With your discussion, you've already answered a couple of my questions. I'm concerned, what came up last time, and I think tonight, is this covers more than our city limits, okay? Why wasn't Benton Township, Benton City, Argentine approached to be the fiduciary on here instead of just us? Or maybe they were, and they turned it down. Anything that requires our city staff to coordinate, oversee, work, and takes away that staff from city work, I'm totally opposed to. And I guess I'm wondering, even though the city attorney has indicated that we can fill out paperwork and possibly get it reimbursed again, that's taking our time that could be set for something else. I want to know how the city directly benefits from taking on this fiduciary responsibility, and maybe what the negatives are to the whole thing. I haven't even seen what you're talking about. What are these kiosks? I know they're building a new, over on Hogan Road, place to get out. Any of these things that they're talking about doing, is it going to affect any of the riparians' rights that live along the river and the pond? I haven't heard that question answered either. So those are my concerns. And I hope you talk about it a little bit more before you make a decision.
Thank you, Chris. I do think, one of the items they did list, the programs for, to promote respect for riparian property owners, programs for the owners themselves, to work with riverbank restoration. So that's part of what the program is. I know part of, some of the things they are doing had been discussed when we did the Parks and Rec plan, because this was part of the vision, when we had meetings and we were discussing upcoming things for the Parks and Recreation. This was part of it, as we had called in the all organizations that play a role. The Shiawassee River Water Trail Coalition, I think the reason why Linden is picked, because the chair is David Lossing, who resides in the city of Linden. So, but it's my understanding from what we've heard that there's a benefit, and probably minor. I don't think what's being asked is similar to what's being asked of our staff for DDA. It's the pass-through.
one of the things that was brought up when we were first approached about this was similar with the Laugh Pathway, Fenton Township, City of Fenton, City of Linden. City of Fenton has acted as the fiduciary on all things Laugh Pathway for the phase 2. And so it's very similar in nature, where we've invested in Laugh Pathway and contributed, or earmarked a specific amount of funds for that. But Fenton has acted as the fiduciary for that. And part of that is the fact that it's a collaboration amongst municipalities and organizations and things like that. And this is ultimately, I feel like, very similar. If at any point it becomes way more than what, the intent is, obviously I would bring that to your attention, and Dave's too. I think that Dave is committed to making sure that it doesn't add to everyone's plate and making sure that there is a benefit within the city of Linden. So the list of items that are up there are a broad list of items, but I think that what would happen next is once they have a fiduciary signed, then they can be more specific with the specific projects that they're going to do. And
Madam Mayor, one other comment for the attorney. Becoming a fiduciary, if the $50,000 grant falls through from the state or whatever, it's canceled or something, does that mean the city of Linden becomes financially responsible?
No, because the way that this works is money comes to us only if this is approved. The coalition would give us bills. We would pay the bills, then we turn those in. And so, under those arrangements, that would only proceed if this is approved, if the grant is given. Now, is there a possibility that the state could come back and yank back a grant?
Right.
Entirely possible, but I can't tell you I've heard of that.
If that happened, would the city be liable for the $50,000?
There wouldn't be, I would imagine, under those circumstances, there wouldn't be any bills that have been incurred. And hence, nothing that we would
But
pay,
is there
nothing that we have to
anything
pay
in the
back.
agreement that says
No.
if for any reason the grant is withheld, taken back, and we know the state does that, that Linden does not have any financial liability?
There's
my
nothing in the
concern.
agreement which says that one way or the other.
It doesn't say that.
No.
Could we put that in?
Well,
That
we
work
can
would be
offer it.
if the grant was somehow delayed, withdrawn, that the project would stop?
The grant's already been awarded.
Okay,
Yes.
it's been awarded,
It's
but
been
let's
awarded
say,
for fiscal year.
let's say it's pulled back, Madam Mayor. Let's say it's delayed. We want to make sure that work doesn't continue. Now, the work's not going to be directed by us.
No.
The work's going to be directed by the coalition. And something in there, I think, needs to say that if the grant is delayed, withdrawn, anything, that the coalition shall cease work. We don't want to continue on with that work and have the bills come into the city and us be financially liable because the state has delayed it or canceled it or whatever.
But we
I just
would,
think we need that protection.
and I don't think we're the ones contracting,
We're the
we're not-
ones
we're
that
not
are going to
gonna-
pay the bills.
but we're not contracting with them. The coalition is, and, I mean, we've had, I don't know, I think we get a lot of benefit from that. From this, we're asking our staff to do a lot of work to try to answer some questions and a lot of what ifs that they don't
Yeah,
know.
but I'm not talking about the staff here. I'm saying if in any way this project grant is delayed, canceled, pushed back, that the city wouldn't have financial obligations.
I think that would be something directed to the coalition.
Okay?
And I think it could be done where we can simply express to them that just exactly that. If the money is withheld or this is rescinded in any way, a project has to stop. No additional
Right.
work can take place.
But that ought to be in writing.
Well, right, and that can be communicated in writing. I'm not sure it can be inserted into these documents, because these documents are between the coalition and the state.
Right.
We can communicate that to the coalition, and should be non-controversial.
No, and it may not happen, but if it does, we don't want, the projects to continue and then have the financial liability fall on the city. That's my concern.
But it wouldn't, because we're not contracting with, that's not who we're
But
contracting
we are
with.
paying the bills, Madam Mayor. We are paying the bills. That's why we're the fiduciary. That's what that means. You're gonna pay the bills, bills are gonna be presented to you, and we're gonna pay the bills. I just don't want any, if the grant is delayed or pushed back or canceled, we just need an agreement with the coalition. And I agree with the attorney, doesn't have to be in the contract here, but there needs to be a written understanding. And other than that, I support the project. I think there's a lot of value in it.
Madam Mayor, too, I apologize, I didn't answer Chris's question specific to Fenton Township and Argentine Township. If I understand correctly, they haven't approached either entity, it was just the city of Linden.
Sure,
So,
we got the money. I
Well,
mean,
unfortunately,
and
we're in the
if you're
difficult
right
one
about the
working
last pathway, Fenton is a fiduciary, even though it impacts all of our communities, and you don't want 4 different fiduciaries. But we just need to protect ourselves as a city, that we don't get hung with the bills if this grant is delayed. And other than that, I support it.
Now, it does, I guess this includes their, I'm reading through the contract language to see the coverage in here. Because I didn't see the same concerns. I guess, Mike, what's your recommendation at this point?
Well, if that is a concern, I think it should be rather easy to communicate that to the coalition, that if for any reason the grant is suspended, rescinded, or reimbursement is delayed, they are to notify us and to stop all work continuing. If I understand Ray's concerns, that should address.
Yeah, that would make me feel a lot better. It's gonna be kinda hard to explain to taxpayers if we have to pick up those bills, because the grant's been delayed.
Any other council comments of additional things we need? Based on some of the additional questions and comments, are there any other council comments or questions that should be relayed so we can hopefully finally come to a decision to this next month? Anyone? Elizabeth?
Is there any way, either David Lawson or a representative could possibly?
Can you, I can't hear, Elizabeth.
Is there any way that either David Lossing or a representative could be possibly at the next meeting to answer any further questions?
Or send a letter out, and have them sign off.
I think we could ask, unfortunately, he was at, I don't think anyone, there wasn't an anticipation that this would create so much turmoil amongst the board. And I think he was here back in July, end of June or July. So I know he unfortunately was not able to make it today because he was out of town. So I'll see if we can, maybe that's one of the things to ask, which of the next 2 meetings he can be at if there are other questions, but also
I'd
in
be
the
happy
meantime-
just seeing the letter. Even though he's,
Well, we have the letter, but I think what Elizabeth's saying, in case there's other questions,
okay.
so. Okay, so we will, I'm sorry, Pam.
Under the, Ray, under the Recreation Improvement Fund Memorandum of Understanding, scroll down to where it says payment. And so it talks about they'll pay up to $50,000, whichever is less. The bills get submitted timely. So I don't think it's a matter of the grant being delayed. I mean, I've worked for the state for, and the DNR for, well, I don't know, 37 years now, and I've never seen it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of billing properly on time with the proper paperwork. That's what the key is. And that wouldn't be a problem with ours. And also, there's a hold harmless clause in here too. It's at the bottom.
Yeah, hold harmless just protects us from legal concerns. I still would like to see that specified somewhere in the memorandum of understanding.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you could always approve this arrangement conditioned on my preparing a letter to the coalition which states what I've stated here tonight, if you don't wish to adjourn action on this any longer. Your call.
I would make that motion contingent upon a letter of agreement with the coalition that Mike prepares.
Stating your concern earlier that if for any reason it stops, the
The
grant
project
stops.
is canceled, delayed, funding is delayed by the state. And I haven't worked for them for 37 years, but I do understand the state revises and changes things. That work will stop immediately and we'll stop funding.
I'll second that motion. And Kristen, can we have a roll call?
Dick?
Yes.
McDermott?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Colbert?
Yes.
Hassan?
Yes.
Out.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the ordinance amending Title III of the Code of Ordinances by adding thereto a new Chapter 35 entitled Code of Ethics. So I don't know, Ellen, Mike, who wants to, Mike, probably start with you.
Sure. I think it was last year, the city brought in someone from, I believe it was MML, to talk about ethics in local government. In the aftermath of that, I prepared a sample ethics policy for council to consider. My understanding is that it was discussed perhaps at a work session, no action was taken on it. Over the summer, I was asked to perhaps revisit it, and so I did. What you have before you tonight for your consideration is mostly what was prepared a year or so ago. It has been tweaked in I think, minor ways, just with additional input. What I did when I was asked to prepare this was I just started looking at sources of all kinds. Started with MML, looked it up in my other communities that have adopted similar things. Just look at communities across the state and what they've done. And what you have before you is what I thought was tailored to the city. Some of the situations that you all have encountered. And I thought it was just meant really to spark some conversation. I'm happy to go through some of these different things, but I will tell you that there's nothing in here that really is made up out of whole cloth. I've seen these provisions in one form or another in all of those sources that I told you about. So the city would not be breaking new ground if you were to adopt this. You would be doing what many communities have done, what MML spoke about and recommended, and that's what's before you tonight for consideration.
Thank you, Mike. Elizabeth, I know last time you wanted to reserve, you had questions, you want to wait till Mike was here, so I'm going to start with you with your questions.
Thank you. Question number one would be, I want a written opinion on this, especially on A and B, but mostly A, from you, the city attorney, sir, in regards with a possible violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Okay?
And then the other question that I do have is section 35.03A, which I'm going to scroll right now to.
Liz, can you turn your microphone on? I can't hear you.
It is on, I guess I need to sit on top of it, sorry. So the 35-03, I'm trying to grab it now. I was ready on the other one. Okay. The complaints alleging violations of this chapter by members of city council shall be filed with the city manager, who shall refer the complaint to the city attorney for investigation. Complaints or violations by any public servant shall be filed with the mayor. So is public servant, then would that be considered boards and commissions? Or is that all elected officials and boards and commissions? In 35.03A.
So 3503 refers to public servant, which is defined just above section 3502. I'll read it. Public servant means the elected officers of city council and any member appointed to a board, commission, or other body that is established by the city charter or the code of ordinances. The public servant does not include administrative officers as defined by city charter. Persons not defined as public servants in this ordinance are subject to the city's personnel ethics policy, personnel manual, or any applicable departmental rules and regulations or collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, so it says complaints of violations by any other public servant. So city council members, and if maybe I'm just missing this, city council members are talked about up top. But this says by any other. So that's why I'm asking if that's a board or commission. And is that the only thing that it covers?
So if I understand, 3503A is really a two-parter. Complaints by members of city council alleging violations committed by city council members are filed with the city manager, then referred to me for investigation and recommendation. Complaints of non-city council members would be filed with the mayor for investigation and recommendation.
Okay, that's exactly, thank you, that was exactly what I was asking. Okay, so I'm wanting to know if that would be a conflict of interest because the mayor, any mayor, is part of what puts people on. Does that ask them to become part of boards and commissions? And then yes, the council, whole council approves it, but they are, some of them are asked by the mayor.
I think, I don't know how to answer that, because I think there is going to be built into this some conflict. So even complaints about city council members, if they're referred to me, I work for all of you. There could be deemed a conflict there. So, and I think the same applies to non-council members as well. But in the case, say, of a planning commission or a zoning board of appeals, state law talks about what can happen to members who commit malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. And we wouldn't be able to change that. The state law would apply. So I think the short answer is, sure, there's some conflict there, but I don't think anything that renders this meaningless.
Is there a way to have all things go through Ellen or the city manager and you, instead of it being broken into?
I don't see any reason why not. If that's what the majority wishes to do, that could be worded that way. In terms of, what was it, 3502A and B, you asked if there was, I can give you a written opinion, but I can give you my opinion right now.
I really would like it in writing.
Can I hear it now?
Yeah.
3502A talks about public confidence, and B talks about personal opinion or misrepresentation. I'll start with B first. The way it's worded is, a public servant shall not represent his or her personal opinion as that of the city. A public servant shall not misrepresent the council's decisions or mischaracterize the business before city council. What I have seen in the past is, particularly with the social media, members will post something on there which gives the impression that all of city council, or that this is an official action taken by the city, when it isn't. It's that person's individual opinion. And that can cause confusion out there. It can also just cause a lot of hard feelings as well. A post, I don't have to think very hard about a post. The city fully supports Kamala Harris, for example. If a single member of this board were to post something like that, it gives the impression that this is a partisan body, all supporting a candidate like that. So B is simply designed to indicate you can have your opinion, you can express it all you want, but you've got to make clear it's your opinion. There's no First Amendment violation there. A talks about public confidence. Public servants should demonstrate by word and action the highest standards of ethical conduct and integrity in order to merit the trust and respect of the public. Public servants should be ever vigilant about saying or doing anything that might erode the public's trust and confidence in city government or bring themselves or the city into disrepute. So the First Amendment applies to the spoken word, or the expressive word. A covers not only that, but just your conduct. So, that's meant to cover a situation where a city council person robs a bank and comes, and expects to, sit at a meeting. That's going to bring a certain level of scrutiny, and I think potentially bring the city into disrepute. I don't see any First Amendment violation there. And as I said, I'm happy to put that in writing if that's what council wishes me to do. And, I can answer questions about any of these sections as I did with those two.
Thank you. Elizabeth, any other questions?
The only other thing is why is there not a civility portion of this too?
I'm sorry?
Something on civility.
I think that's really covered by 3502A. Talks about integrity to merit the trust and respect of the public, but if you wish to see something on civility, the only difficult thing with that is everybody's definition of that is very different, unfortunately.
Anything else, Elizabeth?
No, that covers all that.
Right?
No additional comments. I think this was a great job, and by Michael, and I think we all do better when we have guidelines that give us direction on how we ought to act. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Ray. Heather?
So I was thinking about it, and originally I thought, oh, your ethics are your ethics. But then I thought about it more. In my profession, I've had to take ethics classes. I have to abide by those for my, and I think in this case, I mean, we have, I think it's a good thing, especially if you have new people coming in. They may have every intention of being ethical, but not really knowing what that expectation is. So personally, I'm not really gonna blame, I don't know, but I do think it's a good thing, and it's clear these are the expectations. And then people can choose to follow them or not, but there's no question about knowing what's expected.
Thank you, Heather. I know at the last meeting, one of the things that was discussed was Public Act 196. Many of these things are covered in Public Act 196, but not everything. I think that, you know, it's a good idea to have. It's clear, when I was at the MML convention, there are a lot of communities that do have ethics ordinances. They actually have ethics boards. And if there's a complaint, it has to go in front of the board, and then the board makes a finding. So that's, I guess, one step further. Another topic that has come up is asking people to take an oath of ethics. And we do have an oath when we take office. That is another step. But I think before you can expect that oath, that you show what's expected, as Heather said. And likewise, in my profession as an attorney, we have character and fitness, and when people's character is called into question, it's one of the committees I've served on, that they come before the board. So I think it's good to have. Hopefully there's been some clarification on some of the questions, but that's my comments. Cam, any comments?
From talking to other counselors in other cities, including Grand Blanc and Swartz Creek, they have code of ethics the same, and the policies are, you know, they're tailored to their individual community needs. So and that's the good thing about having a code of ethics that we have here, because it is tailored to us. It's, you know, for us specifically, it does bring about the fact that 196 is more general, and this is more specific. It's clear cut. It's good guidance for new counselors, and it's the other thing is that public confidence. Public servants shall demonstrate by words and action the highest standards of ethical conduct. That simply does cover civility. Highest conduct, highest behavior. So that's.
Thank you, Pam. Brenda?
Just one comment. Any business dealings that I've ever had, any company I've ever worked for, always had an ethics policy, and it was reviewed every year. So I think this is a great way to set the bar and make sure that we all understand what we're doing going forward and how to conduct ourselves. And I appreciate you putting that together, sir. I did look at the MML site, and this is aligned with that, and I like it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Brad?
I'm not opposed to ethics policy, per se. I'm just opposed to actually putting it into an ordinance, because I hate adding laws that aren't necessarily enforced. If you look at Linden's General Code of Ordinances, it's a book of, 400 or 500 pages, and most people can't tell us what's in it, and we don't go back and we don't use it. 196 covers the majority of legalities. Everything else that's in this, in my opinion, belongs in council policy and procedure, because it has a policy. This is the way you're expected to act as a counselor and such. I just don't believe it needs to be an ordinance when anything that would be criminal is pretty much covered by 196.
Thank you, Brad. thank you, Mike, for putting this together. I too looked at several things, and it really did encompass a lot of the ideas that were put forth in the MML and a lot of the samples that I reviewed. I would like to open it up to the audience. I know Denise Miller, you had questions, comments on this.
Yes, I agree with Brad, and just like you said, you could have some classroom or class to basically teach what you want us to do as the board. Going right to a policy, I don't see why. I think everyone can learn what's expected, take an oath of what's expected, and go from there. Adding something else to a policy, I think can be accomplished by just communication. And then if we have a problem, whoever is on the board takes an oath. And that's how to handle yourself in all situations. We don't want to have a ethics that can be interpreted by somebody going out and doing one thing, and it's, somebody saying something else that this person acted that way. I think a class, we had it when I worked for Walt Lake Schools, what's expected. We followed the rules, and we never had to basically have a policy in there to do it. So that's, like I said, I agree with what Brad said, and what you said. I think that we need some learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Any other citizen comments?
Hi, my name's Jill Behrens. I have 409 East Ralston Road, and I agree with Brad. I have one more policy. Can we just have it as an ordinance, or, I'm sorry, I don't think I used the right word there, but I agree with Brad. I have all of that. If I go and, or if Danielle, if you come to my house and just as the mayor, I would hope you would come and just say, this is your opinion, and not say this is the whole city or the whole council. So to be able to, those rules, so I just would hate to have that in a writing that we need another law. We have enough laws here. Are they all being followed in the book that we have that's out there, is all of them being followed right now?
So you'd prefer the policy, have this as part of the policy as opposed to another ordinance?
Correct. So are all of those policies or ordinances being followed right now? If we were to look at every ordinance, are they all being followed right now?
I don't know if it's a question.
Madam Mayor, I don't know if you can comment on that.
Because I know you have a mayor sign out today in town. Is that supposed to be out today, or is that too early? I don't know what the guideline is.
So this is not to be a talk about elections.
No, right, but that's what I'm just
No.
saying. I'm just
Right.
playing on that are we following all the rules right now?
So our code of ordinances are something that we use on a daily basis as staff, whether it's our police department, whether it's our DPW, whether it's administration. So we do use that daily to make sure that we are in compliance or, to give us guidance on specific things. So if there's specific items that, for instance, the political signs, I guess, that came up not long ago. Yes, our ordinance does state a specific guidance. However, back in June, and Mike, I guess you could speak to this as far as the Supreme Court ruling in regards to political signage. So basically, if it's in reference to political signage, our ordinance is basically unenforceable.
To answer part of that, so the Code of Ordinances talks about a whole range of subjects, and is everybody following it in all respects? Impossible to know. But what it does do is it makes clear, because it's written down in clear language, what the expectations are of everyone. So that if there's a complaint that so-and-so is violating it, we can all go to the ordinance and we can look at it to see what is the standard. And then we look to see whether it's violated. So without having something like this in writing, what's the standard? What's the benchmark to hold people to? Because, you know, you could ask 2 or 3 different people about a situation, they may have different views on how it's approached. So this is really just designed to provide that baseline. These are the rules, this is what's expected. And of course, this is binding on public servants.
Sure.
This would not be enforced against non-public servants. It's really supposed to be a self-governing sort of document.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, I do.
Tara Phillips, Linden, Michigan. Is there an ordinance about how our board can talk to or treat citizens? Is there something in the book about that? I guess if we're gonna go this far, we can keep on going further, because I've been to some meetings here, and I tell you, like, sometimes in the response up here, I'm like, I just feel like there should be some type of policy or something, how you guys communicate to the people back here. Because we do elect you in, and I'm pretty sure you guys do work for us, but like, you know, again, I think if we're gonna go this far, maybe we should take it a little bit farther if there isn't one about how this board treats the citizens out here. Thank you.
Tara, can I just get clarification on that?
Yeah.
So I know one of the things, historically, we did not have a back and forth with the board. If people made a comment, it was brought back, later responded. So
Yeah.
is it how council is addressing the public as a whole, or back and forth if there are comments raised in the meeting?
I guess both. So when I go to Linden, the school meetings, they're not allowed to have that conversation back and forth. You know,
We did before.
We do.
Oh,
We
okay,
didn't, and people were upset.
okay.
The public was upset that we weren't engaging in the conversation, so we started engaging in the conversation, and I agree, it is not always the best. But that was changed because people in the audience wanted the back and forth and the feedback.
Got it.
So that maybe is something that we discuss in a work session if we go back to the old way of not having the back and forth.
What I'm concerned is just one person's opinion and how they respond to the public, right? Might be, I guess it's how we all interpret things. Like I could think something was totally inappropriate, where the other person next to me is like, no big deal, right? So, yeah, I guess if we're gonna take it that far, I just think maybe something in writing to protect us citizens. If there is a conversation back and forth, like, okay, I feel this is not appropriate, right? All a matter of opinion. And we address that to city manager or?
Any other questions from the audience or comments from the audience on the ethics ordinance? Mike or Ellen, any further comments on your end?
I'll comment on the ordinance versus resolution versus policy. In this instance, I don't think it makes a difference what we call it. Ordinarily, something is not enforceable in a court of law unless it's a law, a rule, and that has to be expressed in the form of an ordinance. As I mentioned, this is not something that would be enforced in court. This is just for this body. So it doesn't need to be necessarily in an ordinance. A resolution suffices for all the same purposes.
Thank you. Ellen, anything else? No. Well, I don't think we're at a point where we can move on anything right now. There's still too much to go forward and just continue the discussion on this.
I guess I don't have any direction moving past tonight, what you guys really want us to do or to change. I mean, so,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the Code of Ethics ordinance.
No.
Because I don't know what we're asking for further dialogue or discussion either.
Well, I think the question of whether it's an ordinance or just a policy. So the motion has been made by Counselor Colbert. Is there a second to the motion?
Madam Mayor, can we talk about whether we want it to be a resolution or an ordinance? Can we just have
At this point, there's a motion on
okay.
the floor, so that would be seconded and then put to a vote, or the motion maker withdraws.
I'll
his
support it,
motion.
I'll support it. As an ordinance.
You're supporting it? Because, okay.
Yes.
So Kristen, can we have a roll call, please?
Hassan,
No?
Colbert,
Yes.
Simons,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Dick,
No.
McDermott,
Yeah.
Armstrong.
No.
Motion carries. 4-3, motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Next, on our agenda, we have new business, resolution number 28-24, declaration of intent to make public improvement Byram Lake lead SAD.
So in front of you guys, this is a resolution, and also included in here is a memo to move the special assessment for the weed control for Byram Lake and set the public hearing. I guess we'll take any questions. This is something standard that we've done for many years for the Byram Lake. It's already been approved for the Fenton Lake, or the Fenton Township portion back in, I think, June and July. And so they're looking to hopefully move this forward as quickly as possible. And so we would set the public hearing for October, I think it is, Kristen, October 15th.
Any comments from the public on this?
Good evening. I'm Julie Shaw, President of Byram Lake Association, living over on Lake Park Drive in that township. Appreciate your time and effort in doing this. We've been doing this for 35 years. We've been taking care of the lake. The riparians are usually happy, so I appreciate all your efforts in helping us carry this through.
Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. Was there another? Roby?
Been sitting too long. I've been fishing Byram Lake for about at least 50 years. I think it's one of the first lakes I went to when I was a kid. My parents divorced. Came there. 3 years ago, before I had COVID, I went fishing on Byram Lake. In 45 minutes, I caught like 45 fish. And I sort of collectively put fish back and took what I wanted. This spring in May, I went fishing on Byram Lake. Went to the same places. And in 5 hours, I caught 7 fish. What I noticed was there were practically no weeds left in the lake. There were cattails and there were water lilies. And what I'm going to say is that I think that the weeds in the lake have a purpose. They clean up the nutrients that go into the lake from the farmers or from the whatever drains into the lake.
and that makes a healthier environment for the fish. It also cleans up the water some. And I think you can go overboard with killing weeds. And one example I want to state here is that you did a great job on the mill pond, and the poison was supposed to dissipate and go away. Well, I'll tell you now that it went down the stream. When I walk across the bridge at Shiawassee Shores, there are no weeds in there, whereas last year there were a lot of weeds. Other years there were a lot of weeds. If I take a canoe down the river, the weeds are diminished all the way down to Hogan Road. So, environmentally, I'm against too much weed control. I don't know how to assess how much is enough or not, but I know that it's affected the fishing and the wildlife.
Thank you, Ruby. Any other citizen comments? Hearing and seeing none, are there any comments from the board? I knew you'd have something, Pam.
Okay. So the problem with the Byron Lake is that over the years, the Eurasian milfoil, curly leaf pondweed, and starry stonewort have combined together to clog that whole entire lake and deplete it of oxygen and nutrients, because what they do is they absorb it. They grow so tight together, the fish can't even hardly move. The ducks can't dabble, meaning they can't go to the bottom. They can't get seeds because it's choked. So what happens is that over the years, fish have to breathe oxygen through their gills, and they can't breathe what's not there. And when those weeds die, it's totally depletes the oxygen and nutrients and prevents even new growth. So, and that weeds, the cattails have died off over the years because of these plants. And we could invite an aquatic biologist. You could talk to one. They'll tell you exactly what I'm telling you, because I've heard it over and over and over and over, and I've seen it for myself. I'm a biologist with the state of Michigan. So, as far as that toxin was the poison herbicide that was put into the mill pond, that does dissipate, and they've done tests below the grade, and whatever is happening down there in Shiawassee Shores isn't due to anything that they put in the mill pond, because they've done the water test below the dam and down there, and there isn't a trace of that toxin. It's diluted into a million parts, so I mean, there's nothing left that can harm that. So, the weather is probably more the culprit, because we've had an extremely hot year. We've had not as much rain or too much rain, and that's more the culprit with weeds going on near Shiawassee Shore.
Thank you, Pam. Any other council comments? Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we establish an assessment district for the Byron Lake weed program.
Support.
Would that be for asking for the approval of resolution number 2824?
Absolutely.
Kristen, can we have roll call, please?
Albert?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Hassan?
Yes.
McDermott? Yes. Howard?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the manager's update.
Couple of things to update you guys on. As you've seen in the packet, we did get word that they are doing a ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce this Thursday at 4 o'clock for the Linden Brewing. We hope you can all attend. We will be getting the word out to our DDA and Grow Linden list. We've already put it on our social media. We want to hopefully have a good showing there. We do continue to get a significant amount of complaints for the fiber project. If residents are experiencing issues with that, please just contact City Hall and we can put you in touch with the individuals, the contractors on that, the fiber optic project. So, I think they are now working off Ralston Road right now, but they're kind of all over. So just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention, that we are working, we are fielding a ton of calls on that and trying to address those as they come in. We're working right now with Civic Plus and putting in a new notification system. We had a meeting with them on Thursday to go over their product, and we've actually received proposals from multiple other organizations that do similar, and what it would be is a notification system, whether it be email or text, that citizens can opt in to receive specific information. We can also use it to get out things in an instance for like emergency, like if we need to do a boil water alert, we can isolate just specific streets, specific addresses, things like that. We can also use it to get notifications out in regards to anything administrative-wise. So it looks like we'll be able to move forward with that and go through an orientation with them in the next month. So more to come. We did meet with our liability insurance, and we did see a slight increase for our renewal for the upcoming year, but not as much as we were anticipating. We also met with our health insurance for the city, and we did see over an 8% increase. In the past 2.5 years, we've seen about a 25% increase overall in the past 2.5 years. And that's standard what we're seeing across the board, other municipalities, other organizations, just the health insurance industry as a whole. When the renewal first came out, it was actually at 21%, but there was an error in the calculation, so we made them review that, so it is actually an 8% increase this year. So we're working with Tim at Benefit Resources to review what options we do potentially have for that moving forward. Obviously, you guys heard that the Losi Talent Show was a success, and it was really a great event if you guys didn't get a chance to attend. We're working on a joint meeting right now with the DDA and the council, actually for the October 15th meeting as well. So just wanted to put that out there to you guys if you have any topics that you would like to discuss with the DDA, or us have information specific to the DDA that evening. Please let us know. That's really all I have for today.
Thank you. Any questions from council to our manager? A little bit.
I just want to know if the ordinance that was spoken of earlier, is that no longer in effect and everything can go up now as far as signage? I guess I want that to be.
I think that's probably more for the attorney.
Okay, sorry, that's fine. I just wanted it to be actually.
No, it was specific to the political sign, so that's why I commented on that, but Mike can speak about that specifically. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions? Next, we will go to our city attorney's report.
Kristen asked me today if I could put together a seminar of sorts to talk to city staff about FOIA. I did that with council and the Open Meetings Act a few years ago. I'm absolutely interested in doing so, and so we'll get something set up October, November, December. I'll take a look at the schedule.
And if you could address Elizabeth's question on
the political sign. So every community has ordinances regulating signs. Most communities have ordinances which say that signs can't go up any earlier than such a day, must come down so many days after an election, etc., and so on. The case law from the Supreme Court essentially says what you're doing with those regulations is you're treating political speech different than you are other forms of speech, and therefore most of those regulations are unenforceable. Most communities still keep those regulations on their books. I recommend the city do so as well, even though it's not enforceable. I think most people appreciate not having signs up all year round. It's something to encourage people to follow, but cannot be followed, cannot be enforced in the end. So for that reason, I'm not recommending that the city do anything differently with their ordinances. I'm not encouraging anybody to disregard those sections, present council included. But since the question was put to me so directly, I'm answering it directly.
And in addition to that, placement is still, we can still regulate placement.
Absolutely.
And then it cannot be within the right of way, because that's come up more recently. So the signs do, all signs, as far as that goes, any nature has to be outside of the right of way. So placement, is addressed in the ordinances, and that still is.
And no one should take, when I say it's unenforceable, that every portion of your ordinance is unenforceable. I wasn't asked to give that opinion tonight, and I wouldn't give such a sweeping opinion. So I would hope no one reads too much into that. There may be certain portions that can be enforced. Time, place, and manner restrictions, like Ellen mentioned, are certainly enforceable, but for the most part, those ordinances are gutted by those Supreme Court decisions.
Elizabeth, any other questions?
Does the 36 days not apply anymore then? That's what I'm understanding.
Then that particular question I will look at and then send an email to Ellen.
Any other questions for the attorney? Next, we have department reports. We have a report from the police department, code enforcement, Department of Public Works, and the fire department report. Any questions from council on the department reports? Seeing none, move on to council comments and reports. Brad, I'll start with you.
Let's see, Saturday is downtown days for our local businesses. Hopefully, come downtown on Saturday, we should have some sidewalk sales and things going. Yay. I know Tessa's been working on getting that together. We appreciate that. Couple events are happening in Linden. See in the packet we've got coming up in October. Zombie Scarecrows and Monsters, and then Ladies Night Out is November 9th.
Thanks, Brad. Elizabeth?
Nothing tonight.
Ray?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Heather? No, nothing. Pam?
I attended the Metropolitan Alliance meeting in Genesee County, and we got the good news that the city's TIP was approved, and we were awarded $385,000 for Broad Street between Hickory Street and the city limits. Yay! Yahoo! And that we're in the line for more. So anyway, that's all good. I just wanted to bring up that out of concern for some people, for a family who live in Shiawassee Shores, I talked to Marcia, the business manager, and some other people that live out there. You're my dad. And I just wanted to add that they've not had any reports of any of their citizens out doing the I've fallen and can't get up, or lost out in the woods or anywhere in their park or their property and beset by mosquitoes. She said that didn't happen. There's nobody been harmed. I've talked to numerous citizens out there because I was concerned for my own dad's welfare, and they said that that's not happened there. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. And Brenda?
Nothing in addition, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I try not to address anything that's political since someone called me out. I will just, for what it's worth, I ask people to not put my signs out until 36 days before because of our ordinance. So after our last council meeting, as everyone knows, the Historical Society has been present at our council to discuss the museum. I am a member, and I went to the meeting on September 10th. I was a little surprised during the day when I saw on Facebook the notification that I was a speaker, because I was just planning to attend as a member. But I did go. I had probably about 40 minutes of questions thrown at me about the mill and the museum and what was happening. And I did relay those to Ellen. I think it's something that, so one of the things that came up was a dispute regarding what the attorney's decision on the close funds from 20 years ago, that, and statute of limitations has run on that, but we can check into an accounting. There was a question regarding, I think Carl had a question or a comment regarding the budget amount of like $86,000, and I wasn't sure where that was in the budget, so if you could, and I couldn't get to you at the meeting, so if you could stay after, I'd like to get that information so we can clarify. There was also discussion about the mill survey that had been done. We did a survey 2 years ago. One of the items on the survey was, what is your current use of the mill building? And the majority of people, I think it was around 90%, use the mill for the museum and the library. There wasn't a question about what people would like to have it used for. One of the suggestions was the offer of would we sell the mill to the museum for $1. Also, it was suggested that the millage, if there is a millage, that it incorporate the entire school district, because many people see the benefit of the museum. And I don't even know if that's possible, but I said that I would bring it back to council and specifically our attorney. The other issue is several groups have requested that we return the money, and I was asked why money had not already been returned from the city. There was several resolutions where money had been given. The Historical Society raised money to help restore and maintain the mill building, and that was $20,000, and we had a resolution 16-22 accepting those funds. There was also money from the Spirit of 76. I think that was from, part of it was maybe from the Euchre Night. This was $2,062 that had been donated to restore and maintain the mill building. This was resolution 17-22. And then also, the Questers had made a donation, and that was the most recent one. Trying to find the amount on this one. That was,
It's not on there, $10,350.
thank you. $10,350, and this was from resolution 12-24. So I know that Ellen, in an attempt to smooth things over and work things out, had proposed that monies could be returned. I think it's something, and I explained to the group that I would bring it back to council, because I then received another email over the weekend asking why, from the Spirit of 76, why we had not written a check yet returning the funds. I explained to the individual that we hadn't had a meeting yet. I was going to address it at the meeting, so I'm raising that issue now. We have in addition to the ribbon cutting on Thursday at the Brewing Company, it's a busy day in Linden, Symphony on the lawn at Symphony from 3:30 to 4:30. And then also it's dress up hot dog for Pay It Forward God's Love, that is from 3:30 to 6:30. So a lot happening in town. I went also to the MML convention, and they say, one of the goals of the convention is to re-nourish and come back home to lead. There were some great opportunities and things from the Community Excellence Awards. Brighton had a great project, and they had an app that they used for push notifications. So it was an app the residents would download, and then they had push notifications when something came up, and residents could activate that. I think that's probably similar to some of the things that you've mentioned, Alan, but I do think that might be something that would help us. Another thing that they had were, in order to stimulate business when they had their Main Street under construction, they gave out a starter pack of a deck of cards and then encouraged, then businesses had to go, residents had to go to all the businesses in order to finish their deck of cards. And the deck of cards had different historical things from Brighton. They said it was very useful and encouraged people to continue to go around and even find new businesses. Oak Park had pop-up parks, linear parks, and they used crowdfunding. Houghton was the winner. They had incorporated their residents and found a lot of year-round use for the area on their waterfront. And then Granville also had a good project. And I know there's so much information I had, and I can share this other times, and I think pass some of this information along to the DDA. One of the things they had was connecting the library to downtown and making a flexible space and a musical garden. I think these are some things that we can look at, hopefully down the road when the DPW yard can move, and we can use that riverfront property. They also had a Michigan Association of Mayors meeting, and they talked about emergency planning, and that it's something that Rochester Hills talked about when they had the shooting at the splash park, and the need to have information and have a plan in place. And there's a playbook that kind of has been passed along. So I think that's something that we should all be aware of and address. You know, as their mayor said, something they never thought would happen there, but he's glad they had that. It's a different role because they are strong. They don't have a city manager, so, but it's still important for all of us to know. One of the sessions I participated in was Thriving Communities. I did a work session with Benton, and we talked about different ways that we can bring people together to succeed. It also gave us some tools and scorecards that we can use for our community, so maybe that's something that we can do in an upcoming work session, whether that's with the DDA or just our own work session. There was also a process for helping small businesses, another session, and that they do have funds to come in and work with communities, and I think that's something that would be helpful for us. They talked about placemaking and funding through My Funding Hub, and I have that information too through Ellen. So just a lot of useful information. I will pass information on. I'm still waiting for the information. I had my notes, but the actual information that they had from the sessions will be recorded and provided, so I can share more information. But I do think there's a lot of good things that we can take from that and continue to work from. A lot of people are having similar issues as we're having here, and I think the issue is really that government in general has changed from all levels, and who's the easy targets, who's the ones you see every day and you know who they are, it's local government. It's not, you know, you might have a dissatisfaction with something on the national level, the state level, even the county level, but these aren't people you're running into. It's become a lot more personal, but it was good to see that a lot of people are having the same issues, but also knowing that we are continuing to do good work here. We've got a great staff. So I want to thank everyone for the hard work that they do. Next on our agenda are the financial reports. So were there any questions tonight on the bills? There's $739,405.91.
I need to pay the
Support. All right. Kristen, can we have a roll call, please?
McDermott?
yes.
Lyman?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes, motion carries. We have no closed session. We are adjourned. There are some students in the audience. I know you just didn't come here because you have nothing else to do on a Monday night.